Thank you, Ms. Chair. I'd just like to ask the witnesses, can you raise your hand if you have information or knowledge that demonstrates that California election officials wrongly certified a winner in this year's California congressional elections? Okay, the record should reflect that none of the witnesses raised their hand. I do want to ask Ms. Nowacek, I'm sorry if I'm probably killing your last name, I apologize. If it were easy like Morelle, I would get it, but your testimony discusses how vitally important it is to our democracy, the right to vote particularly for military and overseas voters. To your knowledge, the voter access and election administration policies in place in states like California, and I will say in my state of New York, which also allows ballots postmarked to be counted up to a week after Election Day. Do these policies enhance the ability of military and overseas voters to cast a free, fair, and secure ballot?
God yes, so our position is we need to take into account the experiences that our families are experiencing. And for those stationed overseas or even in the continental United States, when trying to access the polls, we will experience mail delays. And so any policy that takes that into account, like the state of California being able to count ballots 7 days after the election, makes it easier for our community to participate. Absolutely.
You mentioned in your testimony, and I don't know this, I didn't have this experience, but I think you indicated the number of days typically that mail delays can occur. Let me just, I thought there was a number in here, but can you just tell me a little bit, you've had this experience of the amount of time that it takes just for U.S. mail to get back and forth from wherever you happen to be. Obviously, it depends on where you are, but if you're in the Pacific, can you talk a little bit about those delays which you've experienced?
So priority mail for international for USPS is about 6 to 10 days. Others average about 7 to 14 days. So from our position, 2 weeks is very friendly to the military voter, but we recommend 7 days as the gold standard.
Yeah, and so the process is if you're on a base, can you just talk about that? I actually don't know how or if you're, let me say this, if you're on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific, how does that, how do you get
Well, I personally have never been on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific.
Well, it's someone in your organization
but
probably
yes,
has.
We do have members with that experience. I can share when it doesn't go well. So we have a member who was stationed, because we do have people who are stationed, families who are stationed on installations that aren't U.S. military installations. So in a military installation connecting the United States, we have access to our mail system. But for example, we have one member who was stationed on a Canadian military installation, so therefore she did not have access to U.S. mail, and actually ended up having to pay a private courier to then courier her ballot back to make the deadline. Extremely expensive, and we know the majority in our community do not have those financial resources to do that. And I share this story for two reasons. One, to hit home really what the mail delay situation and those barriers can be for us, but also really to express how many people in our community desperately want to participate in this process and are really looking for policymakers to make it as accessible as possible for us to do so.
Thank you for that answer, and I guess you're right, you're a spouse of, so you wouldn't, that makes sense. It's Tuesday, I apologize, I'm not really fully functioning yet. The other thing that you mentioned, which I hadn't really given thought to, but I guess makes a great deal of sense, is that you may be on a military base, but you may be in a host country, correct, and you have to make that connection somehow. Correct. And so I appreciate your comments about that. I would say this, and I appreciate all the witnesses and your perspective. And I just, from my perspective, getting this right is more important than getting it fast. And like I said in my opening statement, I'm certainly willing to look at, and obviously with the Elections Assistance Commission, we could all look at ways to improve this and make this faster for everyone to some degree. But we also want to respect the notion that California and other states want to get it right. They want to afford every single voter in their state the opportunity to vote. And look, it shouldn't be a gotcha. I mean, the right to vote should be inalienable. It is you know, according to our founders, inalienable rights that we have, and so the fact that California takes time to get it right, and I suspect from the fact that there were no contested elections that they actually did get it right. So I don't want to value speed over doing this properly and getting it right. So anyway, I thank the witnesses for being here. Mr. Chair, I yield back.